Today is episode 34 with Dr. B and the 15th Ask Dr. B show.
Welcome to the Harness Your ADHD Power podcast. If you're looking for a fresh perspective and actionable steps on hot topics from focus to follow through to self-management and more, you are in the right place. Welcome your host, innovative educator, coach, and psychotherapist, Dr. B.
Hey, ADDers, I am so glad that you could join me today for my podcast show. We've got a tighter format, great topics, and clear steps to take starting today. So let's get to it. I'm going to be addressing 3 interrelated topics today to help you to see the path from fuzzy to focused on becoming the successful adult living with ADHD that you deserve to be. It's definitely a journey, one that's unique to each and every person. And if you're on this journey, I applaud you for your courage straight away. I do. It definitely takes courage and a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today to rise up and become the person that you were intended to become. And let me tell you, it's worth every bit of time, effort, and energy that it takes. It is. I want you to have the life that you want for yourself as much as any other person could want something for someone. I feel it's your birthright to have a good life and to be happy. And just because you didn't have that in the first half of your life, it doesn't mean that you don't get to have it in the second half. It just doesn't. And since I'm going to be talking about executive function and ADHD, if you need to learn and master some of these skills, then so be it. The time is going to pass in your life, whether you learn them now, learn them later, or never learn them. And it's a funny thing about time. It's indifferent to the choices and decisions that we make. I want to shift gears for a moment, since this is an Ask Dr. B episode. Did you wake up with questions or confusion this morning? Are you wondering how to get yourself organized or how to keep motivated to finish up something today? Are you looking for answers? If so, consider sending your questions or your confusion over to me so that I can help you. I'd love to do that. If you're like so many other adults with ADHD, you might not know where to start or how to start or what to do when you get to something that stops you. Or maybe you even doubt your own ability to make good choices for yourself and decide whether you should or shouldn't do something. Whatever is troubling you, ask me. You'll be doing me a big favor by sending me your questions. Seriously. I've had so many questions throughout my lifetime, and I still do. I think people got really tired of all my questions when I was a kid growing up. I know that I never get tired of other people's questions because your questions matter to you, and so they matter to me. If you're anything like me and you don't get the information and the answers that you need so that you can do what you have in mind, how are you supposed to move forward in your life and get things done? And then when people get upset at you because you aren't getting things done and you tell them that you have questions that haven't been answered yet and you need that information so that you can get the things done, do they give you the information or do they just walk away? It's heartbreaking. We need what we need to do what needs doing, and that's just how it is, period. I did my best to make it easy for you to ask me questions. Just click the link in the episode description on your mobile device or on my website where it says, Ask Dr. B, and ask away. I'll be notified immediately, and I'll get to work on answers for you right away. I love directing my time, effort, and energy to the solutions that you need. It's one of the reasons I created the Harness Your ADHD Power community on Facebook. That community space is a place for us to learn about and learn from each other, as well as for me to learn more about what you all need. I'd love to get to know you all in that space, I would. So please friend me on Facebook and then come and join the community. I've decided to go live at 5 on Mondays in the community group to answer questions that you have, as well as to offer a short teaching on a topic of interest or need. The first live video was this past Monday. I hope that more of you will be able to join me live on Mondays in that group. There will be a new post each week reminding you that I'm going to go live at 5. You can even post your questions under that post in case you can't make it live, but you need answers. And I'll answer your questions when I do go live. Whether this is your first or your 34th time of listening to my show, you'll hear me say time and time again that you are not what you do or don't do, that you're more than that we are not defective or less than as people, as human beings, that we're just wired differently, and the difference is actually pretty cool. Once you have the answers to your questions and what you need to do and how to do it, and you have the best tools for you to get it done with the least amount of stress, and it's my hope that you'll get some of what you need here. And remember, I'm a work in progress just like you. Every time something changes in my life, I need to learn something new, a new way of handling the situations that arise. That requires the mental agility to shift gears, as well as the ability to regulate myself so that I don't get overwhelmed. These are both executive function skills. Shifting gears again. I absolutely love my world map with all the little flags marking all the countries and states where you all are listening. It's so cool. I want to acknowledge and welcome new listeners in Egypt, Finland, France, and Spain, as well as any other new listeners. It's so exciting to know that we're not alone in our concerns, no matter where we are in the world. Thank you for listening and relating to the challenges and the stories and the solutions. You are truly a blessing to me, and your presence in my life is beyond anything that I'd ever imagined. Before I get to today's questions and answers, I have a question for you. And you've heard it before if you're a regular listener. It's about your state of mind and your wins. I'm going to continue to ask you about your wins and encourage you to acknowledge and celebrate them every single day. I encourage you to really look for your wins and then acknowledge and celebrate all of them. Because every win that you celebrate on the road to your goals is going to serve to encourage you, to lift your spirits, to create a can-do mindset that's going to lead you to more and more wins and more success. Plus, tracking them is going to show you the path of your successes, which is really cool to see. It's easy to forget how it was once it gets better. It just happens that way. We tend to live in the moment. So please, don't be the person who continues to tell yourself that it's pointless to reward yourself for what you're supposed to do, that these things are just the thankless little tasks of life. No, that couldn't be further from the truth. Those are the very things that deserve and need to be celebrated so that it becomes easier to do them consistently and more enjoyably each and every time. So what's it going to be for you today? Maybe you learned something new about yourself that surprised you. That's a win. Maybe you got an answer to a question that's been nagging you for weeks. That's a win. Maybe you forgave yourself for all the things that you've done to hurt yourself and hurt others, and you wiped the slate clean. That's certainly a win. You get the point. Celebrate all of them. And none of this half-hearted celebrating. You gotta mean it. Exaggerate your emotions. Yes, wow, awesome. And certainly celebrate the big wins too. It's just that they happen so much less often. And so celebrating daily wins makes a difference faster in your life because of the frequency. Shifting gears again. Today's episode is all about answering the questions that you have about the issues or challenges that you experience as an adult living with ADHD and offering you hope. How much time do we have? Not much. So let's get to it. Thanks to you, my listeners and group members, for today's 3 topics and questions. Mindfulness, self-reflection, and the interconnectedness between ADHD and executive function.
This podcast is sponsored by Pure Potential with Dr. B. You can head over to drbarbaracohen.com and find the podcast show notes, grade free content from Dr. B, plus programs and services. That's drbarbaracohen.com.
Now back to being an adult with ADHD in today's world. Whatever the reasons are that you didn't learn critical skills or get the information you need to be competent and feel confident, you can learn them now. Today's topics are an assortment of questions that have been asked of me over the years that I've grouped into these 3 topic categories. And if you find that you can't take action on what I suggest, no worries. You're just going to need to start a little further back with whatever pre-skills or pre-steps that you need first, and then step up to what I suggested today. It doesn't say anything bad about you. It only says that you're missing some skills, and these you can learn. I hope at least one of these topics or questions is going to resonate with you and be of benefit. So let's keep going. I'll start with mindfulness and ADHD and some of the questions I've been asked over the years. Meditation is promoted for us, though of course challenging for those of us with ADHD to sit still. Is there a best meditation practice or way? The best way to practice meditation is to find the road to mindfulness that suits you the best. Mindful meditation can be while you sit still and follow your breath, while you walk and observe and reflect, while you hyper-focus on something of value to you. It's not necessary to sit and meditate. There's programs, research studies, and such that indicate that it's very promising for adults with ADHD to meditate. UCLA created their program years ago. That's an 8-week program for mindfulness for ADHD. How does mindfulness training change the ADHD brain or symptoms? Well, instead of following the distracted mind, which is an inconsistent mind, you follow a mind that is consistent and steady. This promotes a peacefulness and a calm. Thoughts in the mind of an adult with ADHD can be very random in nature. This thought begets the next and the next and the next and so on. You know what I'm talking about. There's no discipline or structure or system to this style of thinking other than it's the ADHD way. However, thinking in a more constructed or structured manner brings huge benefits. Can these changes become lasting once the mindfulness activity has ceased, or are the changes only short-term? The changes are not short-term if the mindfulness training was practiced long enough to embed the pattern of thinking and behaving in this manner. I haven't had a formal mindfulness training for years now, and yet I can drop into that state of mind easily still. Many people need to continue to practice this type of thinking and this way of being, though, just the same as exercising or any other self-care routines. The benefits would typically last longer than just changing back to the first day that you don't practice mindfulness. However, it's easy to not be mindful, and it takes practice to be mindful. So maintaining a practice is really the best way to keep the benefits and to continue gaining new ones. You just have to make it part of your lifestyle and your daily self-care routine. Linking it to something that you do on a daily basis with ease is a great way to be consistent. Can you provide examples of whether ADHD lends itself to mindfulness? Most adults with ADHD are not naturally mindful. They're often distracted, moving in a kind of mindless, robotic manner, and not taking in all of the information or even the full situation in order to respond appropriately. Mindfulness is the basis of training the mind to respond in a particular way. It's a way of shaping the behavior of your mind, to train your mind to do what it is that you want it to and when you want it to. The inability of many adults with ADHD to focus their mind when and where they need and want their mind to go is a huge problem. You might know what to do and when to do it, but getting yourself to actually do it when and where it's needed is an entirely different situation. Mindfulness training is a good solution to this problem. We all need to be mindful in our day-to-day interactions rather than functioning on autopilot and missing a lot of important information and situations. There was a study at UCLA years ago involving Dr. Susan Smalley, PhD, and Dr. Lydia Zawalska, who's an MD, and they conducted a study about the impact of mindfulness training for adults. I was involved on the periphery as a then chapter coordinator for the San Fernando Valley CHAD chapter. I experienced this program and I found it to be very beneficial. Dr. Lydia Zawalska has since published a book on this method, and it's called The Mindfulness Prescription for Adult ADHD. I hope that what I've shared helps you to understand more about mindfulness and ADHD and how it might be of benefit to you. Transitioning to our next set of questions, which are on the topic of self-reflection. I'd like to know more about how having ADHD affects our awareness of ourselves, kind of like how you mentioned at a meeting that often ADDers just don't have a good outside concept of self. Well, very simply put, the conscious mind is the thinking part of the mind. It thinks about what it is experiencing physically in one's body or in the environment. The subconscious mind is the autopilot part of the mind. It's the storage space of all the things that are outside of the present moment. All the beliefs that we hold about ourselves, about life, about anything are stored in the subconscious part of the mind. We continue to reinforce whatever is stored there by our day-to-day experiences and our beliefs. And when something new is introduced to our subconscious mind, there's kind of like a guard at the doorway to our mind that receives the information and decides whether or not to let the new information in. The guard lets the information in if there's similar information that's already stored there. Kind of like by association, the information matches and gets to come in. And if the guard receives information that's not already stored in the subconscious and isn't congruent with what's already there, then the guard will reject that information as not being relevant to your mind or your well-being. In order to make changes in the storehouse and the subconscious mind, we need to gently move aside that guard so that we can enter the space and make those changes. We gain access through mindfulness or meditation, self or auto-hypnosis, whatever methods or techniques that allow you to go inside you and reflect. I feel that it's very important to be cautious when we're entering this realm of the mind. You need to leave judgment outside. You need to enter mindfully with the intention of seeing what's stored there first and nothing more. This is the first step in making changes at this level. Honesty with you is very important here. Whatever you learn, you need to make note of and bring back with you to work with. When you go into this realm, it's with the intention to do no harm, rather to revise and heal misinformation or misinterpretations of information. How do I stop past negative beliefs and patterns from sabotaging my efforts now and in the future to change or improve my life? This is a huge piece of work and often requires working with a trained professional to make sure that things work out the way that you intend. Being open-minded and willing to embrace new beliefs is a good place to start. Without the open-mindedness and the willingness, there will most likely be resistance. There's a neuro-linguistic psychology or NLP walking belief change process that's useful for this purpose. There's also another NLP process of future self, past self, and others, speaking to your current self and helping to guide current self forward in a good way. There's also the need to change beliefs that are held in the subconscious part of the mind and replace them with beliefs that you want instead. Also, if there are behaviors that you're engaged in that are incongruent with the new beliefs that you want to hold in the new life that you want to have, then you won't be able to achieve it because of this incongruence. So you need to inventory your life and you need to see where you are and are not living according to the values and beliefs that you aspire to and what you need to eliminate from your life. Yes, it's currently serving a purpose, and that purpose is from your previous or your old life, not the one that you want to build. Every thought has to be questioned as you think it. Not all thoughts that we have should be believed simply because we have them. If the thought doesn't serve you, you have to challenge the thought, and you have to shift it through challenging it. I like to play this game where I challenge my thoughts by playing a game of imagining that I'm in court, and this is the case that I'm bringing against myself. What's my evidence? How am I interpreting the evidence? Are there other ways to interpret the evidence? What conclusions have I come to? And what have I sentenced myself to as a result of my conclusions with my current thinking? Sometimes I can't figure out where to begin or how to establish a plan. In those moments, I used to feel like I was almost unconscious or in a daze. Now I feel more aware of my indecision, even if I'm not sure how to remedy it. What steps can I take now that I'm becoming aware of being stuck? Picking up with the last question and answer, awareness is the first step. Now that you're aware that you don't know where to begin or how to establish a plan on the topics or issues that you feel this way about, is there something in your life that you do not experience this difficulty with? In other words, if you're faced with something for work, does this happen there? If you're faced with a career decision, does this happen? Where is it in your life that this paralysis happens, and where is it that it doesn't happen? This is the second step. By looking at places in your life where this doesn't happen, you can learn about your ability to begin a process and make decisions. Then by looking at those areas of your life where you can't make decisions and you don't know where to begin or make a plan, how are those areas and situations different? Also, when you think of making a plan, what do you think of? What does making a plan mean to you? Does it have all the steps, all the possible pitfalls, and all the possible good outcomes? If this is what a plan means to you, it may not be possible to make such a plan. It may be possible to make a plan for what you do know, and from there to imagine what might come next. You might need to learn what a plan actually is by having someone show you how they would plan what you're trying to plan so that you can learn directly, kind of in a hands-on manner. How does being more conscious of oneself and one's story help someone to stay motivated and aware of progress? You can only work with and heal what's real and what's known. Being willing to know yourself intimately, or another way of thinking of it, into me you see. It's important. Self-deception is not helpful to healing. Making meaning of something as being less than what is true is also not helpful to healing. Seeing things for what they are, no more and no less, is what's needed to facilitate healing. Motivation is having a good enough reason to take action in the direction that you want to move. Without a good enough reason, you have no beginning. If there are so few professionals who are really trained to support people with ADHD, how do I know whom to trust and invest time and money with to work with them? You need to ask clarifying questions before you make your decision of who to trust and invest time and money with. Since there is no required coursework in the licensure track for MFTs, LCSWs, LEPs, or perhaps not even with psychologists or other professions, in order to get your needs met, you need to ask and you need to know what that professional that you might be selecting has taken the time to seek out specialized training about adults with ADHD and considers themselves to be an expert or well qualified to serve this population. Without asking lots of questions and assessing the answers that you get, you can't hope to get what you're seeking. Too many professionals feel that they can help those with adult ADHD with absolutely no training or understanding of the configuration of an ADHD mind. They seem to think that they'll just be able to apply what it is that they know about situations to those with adult ADHD and that everything's going to work out the same. This is the first big red flag that they don't know what it is that they're talking about and they're the wrong person for the job. The bottom line is that adults with ADHD typically don't spend time in mindfulness thinking or in self-reflection, and so they end up missing a lot of very important information about themselves that's necessary for their own healing and transformation. It takes slowing down, patience, and compassion for self, while self-reflecting and learning about yourself, being a student of your own life, so to speak, to gather the insights and the knowledge to make a difference moving forward. I hope that what I've shared helps you to understand more about the different aspects of your mind, how they function, and what's needed for greater self-reflection. Transitioning to our next topic, which is the interconnectedness between ADHD and executive function. As I've said before, most all with ADHD have executive function skill deficits, and there are many others of you who don't have ADHD, but you have these executive function deficits as well, and they're derailing your life too. So either life's going to make you stop and you have to address them, or you're going to be proactive and choose to do so before a crisis hits. I'm going to do what I can to help. What is the difference between ADHD and executive function? Well, according to all that I've read recently, ADHD is the 3 core symptoms of being inattentive, hyperactive, and/or impulsive. That's it. Executive function has to do with skills that we all need to learn, practice, and master, whether we have ADHD or not. These are skills that we are born capable of learning, but we don't come pre-wired with these skills. What is your opinion on the current school structure of sitting for most of the day with frontal teaching rather than experiential learning? I know that there are schools now that are more progressive in how they teach the kids, many with scaffold learning. That's what's needed for the learning of executive function skills. But for the most part, schools aren't progressive and are educating in a very non-effective manner. Whether it's the size of the classes or the training that the teachers have gotten, that's the issue. The end result is that the students aren't engaged for the most part and aren't learning the foundational skills that they need to master in order to learn the more advanced skills. The students aren't being given a hands-on experience to do something other than listen to a teacher who might or might not be all that interesting to listen to. It seems that the students are being set up to fail more than to succeed. We humans like to be entertained and we love stories. We remember stories. Why not structure education to play to the strengths of all humans according to learning theory, rather than the need to single out certain students because they can't learn the way that some students can, just because those students can tolerate the non-experiential way that they're being taught? I understand that foresight is an executive function skill, and I know that I'm very weak when it comes to having foresight. What are the characteristics of having foresight? How can we utilize this skill toward being successful in planning, problem solving, and critical thinking? Well, foresight is running scenarios in your mind or on paper of what lies ahead in any given situation, possibilities in a positive way or catastrophes in a negative way. Foresight is the ability to predict what will happen or be needed in the future. Knowledge or insights are gained by looking forward, taking a look at or view of the future. A person can gain a sense of foresight through current knowledge, past experiences with similar situations, or simply through intuition. ADHD symptoms of inattentiveness, hyperactivity, or impulsivity might get in the way of someone's clarity of thinking and having foresight. However, the actual skill of foresight is not about ADHD. It's about executive function skills or deficits. From Merrill Switzer come 6 steps for gaining strategic foresight in business that I've adapted for personal. The first is framing, identifying the focus or the underlying issue. We have many issues in life, but not all of them are the leverage points to make significant differences, and we need to identify those. Next is scanning, which is a process of looking internally and externally to identify what's on the horizon that might impact your life. Next is forecasting, which is holding pictures in your mind of what the future may hold. And there's 3 categories that they talk about: possible, probable, and preferred. Next is visioning, deciding the preferred future for your life and making sure that you stay focused on that. Next is planning, whatever you need to do to close the gap between where you are and where you prefer to be. And acting. This is where you implement or follow through on the plan. And clearly, there are many other executive function skills that could be pre-skills or prerequisites to these 6 in order to be successful with these. I love this quote by John M. Richardson Jr. When it comes to the future, there are 3 kinds of people: those who let it happen, those who make it happen, and those who wonder what happened. There's also a 4th, those who resist it happening. It's important to identify which is your mindset before you embark on this journey. I hope what I've shared here has helped you to understand the interrelatedness of ADHD and executive function skills a little bit more clearly and determine where your challenges are and what steps you need to take to help yourself. That's it for our topics today. I want to thank my listeners and group members again for these topics for the Ask Dr. B format. A favorite quote of mine. George Sheehan, physician, athlete, and author, said, "Success means having the courage, the determination, and the will to become the person you believe you were meant to be." The question I have for you today at this point of our journey together is, are you ready to start becoming the person you were meant to be today? And if not today, when? Whether you're learning from my podcast episodes or live videos, or you're part of the new community group on Facebook, or you're working with me directly in my innovative online program or one-to-one, I'm here to serve your needs, and it's an honor to accompany you on your journey and make a difference in the quality of your life. New episodes are released on Mondays and Thursdays. As a subscriber, the newest episode will be in your feed by 1 a.m. Pacific time. Plus, you won't miss out on anything special that I create. Certainly a good reason to subscribe. Please share this podcast with your friends and your family if you're finding it valuable, as well as rate the show. And if you'd like to do a little bit more, I'd be grateful if you wrote a thoughtful review on iTunes so I know that I'm meeting your needs and how the show is helping you, if it is. You don't have to write anything lengthy. Just a line or two would be great. I do love hearing from you, reading your reviews, learning about your struggles, and how the show is benefiting you and those that you care about. It continues to mean a lot to me to know that your life is getting a little bit better every time that we get together. So that's about it for today. If you want to participate in the survey, ask me a question for a podcast episode or a live video. If you want to get free resources, receive periodic updates on new happenings with Dr. B. If you want to find out more or you want to enroll in the Adventures in Achievement program or just download your show notes, you can do all of that on my website, as well as learn about other resources and services. That is, if that's of interest to you. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, bye for now.
Thanks for your undivided attention. If you're hungry to make positive changes in your life, head over to drbarbaracohen.com and see how Dr. B can help you today. Whether you love making changes with one-to-one attention and community support, or on your own with self-study, or could benefit from coaching or psychotherapy, you'll find all the information right there at drbarbaracohen.com.